And we are back with the fourth segment of the GSMC basketball podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. And in this fourth segment, I'm going to talk about the I don't know if I can call it beef. I guess I could say that. I guess the beef between Shaq and Rudy Gobert and sort of why Shaq doesn't really like Rudy Gobert all that much. And the reason why I'm doing this is because I saw an article about it and I'm curious what the article has to say. And I'm also curious what you guys think about the article and what you guys think about Shaq's opinions on Rudy Gobert, because a lot of people, they feel the same way about this article. They all feel that Shaq completely despises Rudy Gobert, that he just doesn't like it, that he's not a fan of his game. Shaq has said it several times that he's not a fan of his game and that he constantly critiques him. And Rudy Gobert, he's a seven-time member of NBA's all defensive team. He's also won 4 Defensive Player of the Year awards, is considered to be one of the NBA's best defenders ever, by especially like with those 4 Defensive Player of the Year awards. There aren't that many players in the NBA that have been able to acquire 4. And the fact that he has 4 immediately puts him in the conversation as being one of the best defenders ever. Now, Shaq, on the other hand, he's going to tell you completely different, that despite the fact that Rudy Gobert has 4 Defensive Player of the Years, that he is not a top defending center. Shaq is, this article continues, Shaq's one of Gobert's biggest haters in the world that has a lot of them. The former Lakers legend has long been on a soapbox trashing the Minnesota Timberwolves center anytime he can. Of course, that naturally includes during the offseason when basketball critics have nothing else to do. On Wednesday, the Hall of Fame center was back at it, showing everyone just how much rent Gobert occupies inside Shaq's head. This is just an article, so, this is all coming from the article. This isn't from me, so just don't take it as this is my opinion. Take it as this is the article's opinion. So, who's the worst player in the NBA today? That's a question that could generate about 100 different answers, depending on which fan bases are going to be pulled. But Shaq answered Rudy Gobert. When asked who the worst player in the NBA is, Shaq did not hesitate and he quickly answered Rudy Gobert. And it seems like a complete joke, but O'Neal said this with a straight face. This should come as no surprise to Timberwolves fans who have long heard about the hate Shaq has in his heart for the 7'1" Frenchman. And, quote, Shaq said, Ben Simmons is another bum, but because you know why. I'm going to tell you why. If you sign a contract for $250 million, show me $250. There's a reason why I walk funny, why I can't turn my neck, and why I can't do it because I played for $120 million. So you got guys like him that F the system over there making all this money and they can't play. So I don't respect guys like that. Every time I make these comments, people think I'm hating, but these are facts. You got teachers, you got firemen, you've got doctors, you have real jobs, and you don't get paid blank. I'm not gonna finish most of because Shaq, he doesn't really have much of a filter. A lot of these athletes on podcasts, you don't really need filter on a podcast if one isn't required. But even the host couldn't contain his laughter. Like most of the world, he realizes that the idea of Gobert being the NBA's worst player is an absolute joke. Shaq may not appreciate the 4-time All-NBA center of his contract, but he's still a pretty good player. And with that, I do agree with the article. I do think that Shaq's reasoning for disliking Rudy Gobert is somewhat justified. The only reason why I say somewhat is because Rudy Gobert is out here making way more money than any center has ever been able to make before, any other good center has been able to make before him. Because, remember when Rudy Gobert signed that massive contract and everybody laughed at the organization for signing him to that much, because it's that's a huge amount of money to give to somebody who doesn't have much of an offensive game. And because that he was given the most, like he was the most paid big man for a while, a lot of Shaq in particular, he did not agree with that and he didn't really like it because from his point of view, he was averaging 30 points per game, getting 12 rebounds per game, getting 3 blocks as well, and just being a dominant force in the NBA that nobody could stop. And he wasn't even paid that much money, which would, I think, like if I was put in his situation, yes, I would definitely be upset that somebody else is getting more money despite the fact that I know I'm better, you know? But saying that that Rudy Gobert is the worst player in the NBA is just flat out disrespectful. Like you can say that you don't like him. You can say that you're not a fan of his game. You don't think he's good. Like that's your opinion. You have the right to your own opinion. Yes. But saying that he's the worst, I understand that still like your opinion, but there are numbers and stats and other components that can sort of prove that opinion of yours to be a little, I can't really say wrong, but rather like questionable, I should say. Yeah, rather questionable, because at that point, if you have a very strong opinion about something like this, like Shaq does, but there are numbers that back the statement up to be a little bit wrong, or rather just not entirely accurate as what he's saying, then people might view it as hating, and that's sort of like, and which it kind of is, because it's like you can't, there are so many other players in the NBA that don't provide nearly the same defensive impact that Rudy Gobert does, despite the fact that Rudy Gobert gets dunked on, despite the fact that Rudy Gobert is arguably a liability on offense. There is still a lot of good that he brings despite the bad that he brings. And that certainly doesn't make him the worst player in the NBA. Like you can name so many players that Rudy Gobert is better than, and you could also name so many other players that are better than Rudy Gobert. Yes, but there's going to be more players not better than Rudy Gobert than there's going to be players that are better than Rudy Gobert. And saying that he's just bottom tier, literally the worst, is just, in my opinion, rather disrespectful. But let me know in the comments what you guys think. Do you guys think it's not disrespectful to say something like that? Do you guys think it's an opinion? Like, so, and he has the right to that opinion, so he can say that? Or do you like understand my perspective where I'm like, yeah, you can have an opinion, but if it's not backed up by any stats, is it a really valid opinion? Let me know what you guys have to say about that in the comments. And the article continues. After all, Gobert earned that contract. If the Jazz hadn't signed Gobert to a 5-year, $205 million contract in 2020, several other teams would have. And that's how the world works. You're only worth as much as someone is willing to pay you. And the cold hard truth is Gobert is a very valuable player. The Timberwolves realize this, but that won't help Gobert earn any respect from Shaq. And the article finishes with that statement. So, let me know in the comments what you guys think. Do you guys think that the dislike towards Rudy Gobert is a little bit justified? Do you guys think that he's just the biggest hater? Do you guys think something completely differently? Do you guys agree with what he has to say? Or do you guys just think he's just flat out wrong and he's just being a little bit bitter given his highly touted resume? And honestly, I'm sure if every single one of us had his career and played in his situation, we would definitely we would feel a similar way. We would have like a similar feeling of resentment towards a player that's making just a little bit more than what you feel like you should be making, just a little bit. Again, it's not like flat out jealousy. I mean, maybe it is, but again, not entirely. I mean, I would probably lose sleep over that. I mean, 28 points per game, and this guy who averages 15 and 16 or something like that gets paid way more than me. No, thank you. But Again, let me know in the comments exactly what you guys have to say about that. But with that out of the way, we are out of time for this fourth segment. So now we will go ahead and go into the fifth segment, where I talk about one player in particular who I feel did not deserve to win the MVP. And I'm obviously going to continue on with the list that I've been doing for the previous the previous 5 segments that I've been doing over these past few weeks. So if you guys are interested to figure out who I think didn't deserve the MVP, then go ahead and stay tuned after this short break for the 5th segment, where I break it all down. And spoilers, the year is 1969. So I'll be right back.